I told you my cousin and stuff, man. Me and him was talking. He was like, "Yeah, me and my girl listen to him all the time." I was like, "Nigga, what? Together?" I like y'all been listening to y'all new dude is like, "Oh yeah, yeah, we listen to him together." I like shit.
So people who like podcasts probably listen to him all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's so
Hmm.
much shit like out there, especially if you
Yeah.
think about it. Folks still working remote at least probably all the way through summer and shit. So man, you got time to listen to podcasts and different shit. I don't know, but
Seriously, listening to all these different podcasts.
I know I
Like,
listen to a lot of, but I listen to more
I'm
so
getting
just
an echo.
sports
Who is that playing
podcasts.
that?
Man, I don't know, Jay. I heard it too.
you heard an echo?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
heard a
Is that
feedback.
me?
It repeated what I said.
Is it me?
Do you have your stuff loud or?
No, I'm just saying, do you hear an echo
I don't
now
hear
that
it
I'm
now.
talking?
I did hear it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All
But
right, so
yeah,
I
but
don't know. I don't know, Jay. Okay, let me see. Oh, sorry. Let me turn this down.
that is you. Trying to
No,
fix
no,
it.
that's when I just clicked on. Don't come for me. I
Oh,
can't share it off your outro page. Hold on.
hey, you know, Jay, I'll be ready. Hey, but you know what I'm gonna say though?
you don't care?
Nah, he don't bring Anton that heat.
No, you know he don't. He don't for though for
What
Hey,
kind
I'm
sure.
of heat you
still
talking
on that
about?
for the 21. Hey, you
What
know
kind
I'm
of
gonna
heat you
say
talking
it.
about?
You
The
don't
heat
give
that you give
Anton that
us.
same heat,
I
man.
do. I get everybody the same heat.
No, you don't.
I do.
The fact that you don't know that you don't proves my point.
Dude, we get beat like me and B Nix get beat down by the because you know you're the host, so they take what you
No,
say.
it's JR fault. I don't even
They
fault
do.
Anton.
I feel like everybody comes at us because JR
No,
be
I
like
appreciate Anton. I actually like Anton on the show. JR is the problem.
JR.
Yeah, man, it's our moderator, man.
Okay.
Once we figured out it's JR, exactly. It's
Yeah,
like,
man. This
oh,
whole this whole time
dang,
you
this
had me.
whole time.
The whole time
We
you had
thought
me coming to Anton for no type of reason. You the one. It was you. You create the setting for this shit, man. So it's your fault. Anton a homie now.
All
you
right, y'all.
are
It's go
the
time. It's
reason.
go time. Go time.
Let's go.
Welcome to Lapeef Let's Talk. We hope you guys enjoyed your new year. Well, we back. It's 2021. I'm here with the crew. We got B Nix,
What up?
Tawana,
Happy New Year.
and Anton.
What's happening, fam?
Hey, before I get started, I had a raffle that I was doing for a PS5. Unfortunately, we have not sold all of the raffle tickets, but we are going to continue it until Friday. So the tickets are $50. It's 20 tickets. If you purchase it, it's 1 in a 20 chance of getting a PS5 for $50. I'm doing it on the live, so since we're not doing it today, I'm going to come back Friday within the Facebook group and on YouTube as well, and I'm going to do it on the live. This is actually the process that we're going to use right here. If you guys can see, so it's basically like a spin ball right here. You spin it, and I have the balls 1 through 20 right here. They will go inside of here, and I will turn it, and we'll pick.
Oh, it's gonna be a little. It's gonna be legit.
Yeah, it's gonna
He
be
gonna
legit.
roll it. It's like a little lottery
Oh
lottery
yeah,
ticket.
man. I thought you was just gonna like put it in like a little hat, shake it around and stuff. You know, have little
and
folded up pieces of white paper and stuff.
No, I'm not going to do it that way. I just wanted people to visually be able to see that it was a fair opportunity for the people that did invest in the opportunity.
Oh, look at you being all thoughtful, man.
No, it
That's
got to
dope.
be. It got to be.
that's kind of cool.
We family, right? So you got to
I
treat
just
them right.
work here
All right, you guys.
on
Again,
Wednesdays.
welcome to La Peef Let's Talk. We're gonna move
Tuesdays now.
right into our first topic, which is should marriage certificates have an expiration date? Should marriage certificates have an expiration date?
Hmm.
It's, it's a lot of people that are getting married, and there's a lot of people that are getting divorced. So the question is, the the situation that we tend to run into is that you don't know the person fully ever. So a lot of situations come up and you begin to question your marriage. So should it be an opportunity for you to say, hey, after a certain time period, I don't want to do this anymore? Let's open it up for the table. Be next. Should marriage certificates have an expiration date?
You know what? Like, I still kind of in my mind think about this as a joke, but Anton, you know, I always talk about shit as it relates to work. the thing is, like, hey, and we look at it from the aspect of like, hey, being in a relationship is hard work. And if you ain't performing to the best of your ability, you might put an action plan halfway through. And if it just ain't working after that 5 year, I don't renew the contract. So I think folks may look at it differently if we did it like that. So I mean, I'm being facetious about this, but it does make you wonder, like, hey, could that be an option? Could you? It's almost like how you look at insurance, right? You get whole life insurance versus term. So the thing is that something that we want to entertain to have like a term to your marriage? When you get the certificate, you have to do whole life marriage certificate, or you can get term 5, 10, 15, or 5 with a alpha male option for the additional year, you know? So I think that'd be something that it wouldn't be bad. Because it'll be up to that couple to choose. Want whole life marriage certificate or term marriage certificate? I'm for it.
All right. Tawana, should marriage certificates have an expiration date?
No. It's so ridiculous just because other people's marriages fail now, other like us who really are committed to being married, you know, we can't have a wedding. We can't have the dream of forever. Like, I don't know. I just don't agree with that. I feel like, why should we put an expiration date on a union that we are creating like together? I guess people do prenuptials and people do other things to kind of, you know, make sure that they feel secure in their marriage. I guess if there's money involved or if that's the issue. So I think there's other things you can do and put timelines on to kind of protect yourself if that's the concern. But I mean, that's why you got to get a divorce. I don't know. I just don't really understand. So if it's a certificate, what does that mean? Like, you just get out of the marriage after 5 years, you got to get remarried.
We just both walk away.
So you got to get remarried again?
Like Trump.
So can you continue your license if you choose to, though? You know, like, how is that going to work? I don't know how I feel about that. I just feel like,
hey, both people got to sign a marriage certificate. So if they go, like you said, this is a union, right? So the thing is, this is just like a certificate. Instead of just doing like this open-ended certificate, you could opt to say like, hey, I would like to do a 10-year stint.
Here's the thing. I don't believe in making rules based on how others, like, just because other people's marriage fail. I don't feel like we should make the rules based around
it's up to those two people in the marriage, though. You know, think about it, like you mentioned earlier, like with a prenuptial agreement. Some people are against that. They were like, no, that's not organic. And Anton, what we said months back, it's about love and about just feeling good. It's about the vibes, right?
Yeah.
But then you be like, no, it's a business, right? And if you treat your marriage like you're the CEO, then the thing is, you want the best performance out of your partner, and vice versa. So you
put a time frame on it and get it together, huh?
Hey man,
no, don't put no time frame. I like the freedom of choice, and we can choose to be married, and we can decide when it's over on our own. We don't need the government to give us an issue date, and we don't need a timeline created by anyone. I think that we as a couple should be like, hey, you know what, this marriage, and go into it obviously wanting the marriage to last forever and not 4 or 5 years, and then we can make a decision, or 2 years, and then we can figure it out. Like, I don't really like the idea of a time frame on it. It's just my thoughts, I guess.
I don't know, man. I kind of feel like I could see both sides of it, because then there's that aspect of, what if that person doesn't want to get out of a relationship, even though it's toxic? Then you have a problem. So you can kind of eliminate a lot of the hassle by having an expiration date, because if everything is a go, when that date comes, then you guys just going to sign off on it again and just keep moving forward. But I do think it will hold people more accountable about their relationship, knowing that it's an expiration date. I think that they would, hold themselves together and not let themselves go. They would be more consistent. And then it just gives you a choice. That's what life is about. It's about choices, right? Anton, should marriage certificates have an expiration date?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of it, simply that because it incentivizes you to always move a specific type of way, right? Like if you had a lifetime contract or some kind of golden parachute as it relates to your job, for example, one of the things that you work towards, or the things that incentivizes you to be great in whatever it is that you do, is that you got a yearly evaluation, as far as like, to review your performance, and if you're not performing the way you need to, you might go on the PIP. You know what I'm saying? You might you might go on the PIP though, really. Like, but I guess the thing about it is that I don't see why not. I mean, marriage, the certificate in itself is a contract. Like the contract affords you certain benefits, even as it relates to, your tax benefits and the government and all of the the incentives that you get. When you make a certain type of money, if you get married, then it goes up, a lot higher to keep you in a lower tax bracket, to pay lower taxes, and the healthcare benefits that you get as a result of being with certain people and all of these other type of things. So all these things get renewed and all these things get reevaluated after a period of time. And I don't understand why you can't continuously come to the table and say, yo, what can we do better? Or should we, evaluate what it is that we have to make sure that it's working or it's not working, and then structure it to where, if things aren't moving a certain type of way, or it is, you move forward without always having to involve the court or involve some sort of other entity to help you make a decision, or go through a messy or involve lawyers and all of these things in
So
order to ensure.
certificate.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't really see a problem with it. The only caveat that I would add to it is that if you have kids, that the term should be significantly longer, because that would incentivize you to be able to stay together in order to ensure that the kids are in the best space possible, and things like certain things I think should be negotiable. Maybe you can negotiate how long the initial term is or whatever it is, but again, in most things that we have in life, you have to renew it. You got to renew your job driver's license. You got to go on. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand why we can't continuously reevaluate where we are in that aspect of our life also, in addition to everything else that we always do a self-check. A lot of times I see people always say, well, they let themselves go or whatever. I think you would pay attention a lot more if you had, some visibility into the fact that you had to be accountable for what your performance was.
Well, I feel like also you don't take that partner for granted. And not to say there has to, folks always talk about applying pressure and stuff. But the thing is, it's one of those like, hey, if this is what you want, you show and prove. Hell, you could be like Greek Freak, where you be like, hey, you know what? Hey, I want to sign for an extension before my contract is up. You know what I mean? So just because things are going well. So I think just to me, I would look at it just giving somebody the option. Hey, you could go in, when you go in for that marriage certificate, you could go for just open-ended whole life, or you could kind of vary like, hey, since we got seeds, hey, we got to at least go. This might have to be like a 12 to 18, year contract or something like
10-year contract or something.
Yeah, and they may say,
I
like,
mean,
hey,
I think it should be incentivized, and that it should move similar to contracts that you get like for sports, like sports contracts. Like, this might not be guaranteed. This is a non-guaranteed contract, fam. Like, if you are not meeting certain expectations, or you fail to reach a specific clause, such as you're found to be, cheating, or infidelity is introduced in the way that you're moving, I don't think that the other person should be penalized as a result of sitting around in that situation.
It's like the collective bargaining agreement, and I'm not
a
member, but hey, that's an infraction. Hey,
I don't see nothing wrong with it. I really don't.
Hey, you get a verbal warning. If you got X amount of warnings, and what it lead to? Suspension, then expulsion, right? Hey, you know what? We're done here. We actually got to terminate early.
I don't see no problem with it, bro.
To walk away, because think about it. I mean, not to say it doesn't happen, people don't talk about it, but there's cases where people are in situations where they know it's just not working. And a lot of times, like, this gives also the option. I know we're looking at it from a slanted aspect, like this is a way out, like an escape clause, but hey, this is for both parties to kind of walk away, and with that understanding, like, you know what, we tried to do that. We did this for 18, 20 year, stint. Our kids are now adult age. Hey, let's just part ways now, Because the thing is, think about like, and from what I hear, I haven't researched this fully, but you think about just with prenuptial agreements, like in California, where after 10 years, then it's now everything is split down the middle. So it shows that there is legislature at the state level that shows that things are kind of more like you mentioned, Anton, this binding agreement. So we're just saying to take it like a step further. If anything, it could all be packaged together, as opposed to just being kind of this multifaceted contract of the prenuptial along with the marriage certificate, term of marriage certificate.
Yeah, my biggest thing is that, I mean, for a lot of people, it just sounds weird, or they're like, nah, I can't see that. But help me to understand the downside. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't think of a downside as a result of this being something that, we highlight as should be instituted. So I don't know. I can't think of one downside.
And we're not saying it's a requirement. The thing is, you could go with a legacy marriage certificate that's not term. You know what I mean? You could be like, hey, I want that legacy. I just want to go in open-ended marriage certificate. And somebody may be like, no, I want that new marriage certificate that just got passed in the state of XYZ. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, but think about it. Like, a lot of the ways in which we operate is based off of things that's been set in stone for literally hundreds of years, bro. And it's like, with the evolution of who we are and what we're becoming and what times are and the way things are changing, I don't understand why we're not evaluating even these things that we consider legacy, even from a contractual perspective, and saying, yo, what are the upsides? What are the downsides? What does history tell us? What are the statistics? How often do people get divorced? How often do they not? And then make modifications based off of, what we've realized and learned over time, and say, yo, can we move differently? And how do we create a better environment?
We won't really change the divorce rate. It will just be called something else. Contract ended, negotiation. I mean, so people will still end their marriages, and that still will be an issue, but maybe now people will be able to get married more often. So then you'd have 10 ex-wives and 10 ex-husbands. Like, I
got a question for you.
Renewing the contract.
I'm in agreement with it, but do you feel that, like, and not to compare this to sports, but this is just an easy comparison group to associate this with. Let's say, like, you're in the last year of your contract. Do you feel like that's a different level of anxiety you may have? You're like, damn, hey, things been kind of rocky. I'm approaching my last year. Hey, we ain't had contract negotiations, any discussions yet. Like, I don't know. Do you feel like that would jeopardize no one going into that last year? Like, man, this mug might leave.
No, I think that I think pressure is good. Pressure is good in all situations, because it's either going to sort out the trash or it's going to force you to become the best version of yourself. And so I don't have a problem with separating. And I don't necessarily think it's a problem with whether or not people are going to get divorced more often or not. But I just think that the fact that everything that comes as a result of us being reactive versus proactive about our decisions create a messy situation. And so in most situations, divorces are messy. You know what I'm saying? Because there is no understanding, or because somebody got blindsided, or because, somebody is in it for the wrong reasons, or people change, or, somebody feel a certain type of way. But often at times they become incredibly messy because there is no structure and there is no proactive mentality that comes along with the circumstances by which we find ourselves in. So I just think that maybe it's not necessarily for that reason, but it creates a better dynamic based off of what it is that we're expecting and how we can clean up some of the messes that we leave behind as a result of the decisions that we make.
I mean, I don't really see no difference. People still, if I know my contract ended and you don't want to renew it, I'm still going to act.
Like, I'll give you an example. More often at times, people spend a ton of money on lawyers, or they spend a ton of money on court fees, and
like the divorce process is difficult. I would say
be dragged out a really long time based on.
But maybe that's intentional as well, so that you can kind of discourage you from wanting to get a divorce. Because I know that going through that process and walking through the court, I was like, I'm never doing this again. Like, never. I just cannot ever see myself going through this and divorcing someone. Like, it's the worst process you could ever go through. So I think that's intentional, right? Like, if they made it real easy, you might just leave any situation. Because I mean, if I know I could just go and push a button and get a divorce, I'm
Well,
pretty
no, I
sure.
mean, you would have to abide by whatever the terms is that you agree with, right? You know what I'm saying? You got to play out your contract.
But
then
if we
at the
if we
same
got
time, if
people
you're
who
performing great, then we can re-up at a better rate. And if you're not performing good, you might get cut from the team. And
What?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
It'll
on
just be
the
a
re-up,
non-renewal. That's all. It won't even be
on the
enforced.
re-up, can I get
Got
a
non-renewal.
longevity? Can I get the forever clause in the re-up, or after I do my 5 years, I got to prove?
Was that in the initial agreement? Like I said, hey, you could put in those different clauses and incentives.
Yeah.
It's too much of a business transaction.
That you get
like,
automatic. If things don't work out, you get a 6-month action plan. If you are up for a non-renewal, you get an extra.
I mean,
6
but
months
think about it
right.
though. It's a lot of situations where somebody might develop a gambling habit. Somebody might, you know what I'm saying? Anything could happen, but then you're like, what do? You know what I'm saying? I think that just people are, when they're incentivized, like we call it in the industry gamification. It's almost like, okay, if you got a leaderboard or, if it's something that you can usually measure yourself by as a result of being able to evaluate whether or not you performing better than the people that's next to you or whatever, like competition, just breeds a better result in most situations and being able to sort out who's who. And so a lot of times I just really believe that if people had this subconscious thing in which they know, I mean, even in the NBA, people perform their best years before that contract. Like they really want to come in shape and give the best performance that they can give when they know everything is on the line. So I just think that when you start adding non-guaranteed situations, you just get better results. Like even with the unions, and a lot of times, like that's the biggest thing with automakers is like, yo, they know they're not gonna get fired. That's why they don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like they gonna push it all the way to the limit, and then they're gonna do their job the way they're supposed to. They're gonna do the very minimum that they got to do in order to continue to getting paid. So it's almost like I might want to look at it a little bit differently.
Yeah. And the thing is, think about with unions, it's not like they wait until the contract is up to be like, oh, we need to create a new CBA. No, they're already having those informed conversations beforehand. So you already kind of know what direction negotiations are going in before the contract is up.
It's one. Hold on for you.
Okay, are y'all acting the same way in your personal relationships that you do in your business relationships? Because I just don't see that dynamic. It's just a different dynamic with my partner, my husband, my love, than I do with my boss. So I don't want to create a contract the same way that I would in a business setting.
Why not?
It will be different functions.
I don't do that.
It wouldn't be the
right.
same.
Why not though?
But
why wouldn't you want it to be different?
Because that's not how I relate to him. And that's not the environment we have. It's not a professional, clear cut. This is you. This is
go with
me.
the legacy contract in.
So let me ask you a question though. Okay, so but you're in your previous relationship prior to you getting married, things was probably a lot more awesome until you actually got into a situation with him and then things changed. Do you think that would have benefited you in that circumstance? Like, I don't know about this one. Because you're only looking at it from the good side. What about when it's not so good for a lot of people?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not looking at it from the good side because I've been through divorce. I guess, yes, I do think that eventually I was fed up with the marriage. I don't think that he changed. I think that I end up realizing like this is not the marriage for me, right? Like I came to that conclusion. He was who he was.
Yeah, you wanted to be a free agent. I got you.
I wanted to be, but I don't know. Like,
well, you asked for a trade. You wanted to sign a trade.
I think what I did was I was like, I learned more, and I was like, no, let me find some, let me take my skills.
Hold on, Nick. Hold on, Nick. 1 second. In 2021, we want to try to be a little bit more interactive with our listeners. So we do have one of our biggest supporters that's in our Facebook group. Her name is Capri, and we're going to bring her in so we can get her perspective on this question. Let's welcome Capri to this panel. How you doing, Capri? How you
Hi.
doing?
Hello.
Hey.
Hey, what up though?
Take it off mute. Take it off mute, Capri.
Hi, can you hear
There you
me?
go.
We can
Oh,
hear
yes, we
you.
can.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, yay! Nice to meet you as well. I'm
All
two
right.
hours
So the
behind
question.
everyone. I'm in California, so
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, no.
That's what's up.
Well, don't brag about the sun and everything. Don't do
oh
that.
well, cold to us is like 45 degrees, 60,
That's summer. That's summer here. We'll be
I
right
running
for
know.
you
short.
guys. Exactly.
Capri, I
You guys
know you've
touched.
been kind of.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Okay.
No,
I
go
know
ahead.
you've been kind of listening to everything that's been talked about right now.
Hmm.
I want you to respond to some of the things that the crew has been talking about, and also you can answer: should marriage certificates have an expiration date?
Well, I believe everyone touched on pretty much what I, think, but I don't think it should, but I think it should be an option. My thought process is you wouldn't go into business with someone without a partnership agreement. And you want to make sure that if anything was to go awry, that you know what to do in the event that something goes outside of the bounds and the contract of that agreement. So this is why I even I don't care if I have $5 in my bank account. Prenuptial agreement needs to be put in place, and that's something I feel comfortable with, given the high divorce rate. You think you're marrying, your Prince Charming or your, Sleeping Beauty, whoever, and then 2 years, a year down the line, this person does not turn out to be the person that you have initially married and loved and cared for. So I think having the option to have a term, I guess a limited term marriage, I think it should be an option for those. And I guess if we take prenuptial agreements into account, that it could be anything what you want it to be. That contract, it could be 4 years, it could be 2 years, it could be 10 years. And like you said, 4 years, you don't want to be with this person. Instead of getting lawyers involved, let's just go our separate ways and call it a day. Now it gets
Contract
a little
over.
tricky when you have kids,
Right.
but that needs to be also entailed in whatever that contract is.
Man.
Capri, somebody posted it, and I also was thinking about it as well. But do you think that if it's a contract put in place, that people might not work as hard as they should be, knowing that they have an out?
I think people are going to act the way they're going to act, regardless of whether something's in place or not. So contract or not, if you trash as a partner, it's going to show. As Anton said, the pressure may be there to act right. If you want that contract renewed, you're gonna put your best foot forward, or it's gonna sift out the trash partner that you are. I'm sure that a lot of people have been in relationships that they wish they had a contract put in place. There's a lot of people who are, I just really just got hurt in the process, of a divorce. You come in
Yeah.
with more than half, and I think a contract is really to protect the interests of both people.
No, I agree, Capri, where, we always, I hope that this conversation for everyone is not slanted on the negative side, but this also shows
Right.
investment to me. This shows that like both parties are have a mutual agreement that they come together to say that, you know what, hey, I dig you to the point that I want to invest in you to the aspect of us doing this together. Because the thing is, I know we had talked about this more so from the aspect of culture, of things changing, of people not getting married. If anything, this may allow people to feel more comfortable going into a marriage, knowing that, you know what, hey, this is something that I'm willing to enter into so I won't get like, jerked over, or really the person I thought that I'm married is no longer that person. So if anything, we've all been in situations, whether we have worked for an employer on our own, whether it's contractual or non-contractual. I always feel to my core is that if you put forth the effort and do what you're supposed to do and handle your business and boss up, then the contract almost is invisible if you're doing everything that you're supposed to do. I know there are situations that may come up that you're kind of blindsided, but that's life. Our current marriage could be blindsided to certain things that come up. But to me, something like a contract really shows investment in both parties into this union to say, hey, you know what? Both of us are coming together and I'm willing to invest in the betterment of this partnership.
Well, Max, that's well said. I must admit, when I first actually put this as a topic, I was sitting here saying a contract. Why would you have a contract? But after hearing you guys' perspective, it starts to make sense why I can understand why a lot of people would be in agreement with this. So, Juan, I know when we first started the show, you were saying that you wasn't for it, but based off what everybody been saying, do you have a different view, or you still stand
No.
on we shouldn't have a contract?
I feel like y'all not really married until after that contract is over. I don't even really like acknowledge like the contract to me is like you might as well just stay in a relationship and just wait until y'all, figure it out. Like I just don't understand the purpose of getting married if you feel like you need to go into it with terms that are pre-designed by this government that will stop you from I don't.
It's
I
not
just.
a bad
I
thing.
still don't
That's
agree
the
with.
thing. That's why I kept saying it's not a bad thing. It is something.
It's not a bad thing, but to me, I just have an opposite view, and I'm more
So
traditional.
would you
and
ever?
believe in the
Do
sanctity of
you
marriage
believe
in a
in?
different way. Yeah.
Do you
Yeah,
believe
I
in
have an
prenups?
opposite. Um, it's not that I don't believe in them because so I guess I have a hard time understanding that question because it's like they're real, so I don't have to believe it. It's not like like the like the tooth
No, I'm
fairy
saying
or
like,
Santa
do you have
Claus.
the do you
Like
have the same?
I think that they're real and some people find them necessary for specific reasons. And I think that I I'm not in a position where I ever will feel like I needed to have a prenuptial. And and I don't want to speak for Chris. Maybe he gonna put one on me one day, so I'm not going to act like
I
that.
guess the question is, would you sign one?
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
would
I'll
you
sign
sign
one.
one if he gets you?
Well, I mean, because the
Sure.
reason why I asked
Oh,
if about the
Sure,
prenup
because
or
he's not
whatever is
saying
because
your marriage is going to end in 5 years. He's saying, listen, if you stay with me for this amount of time, I don't mind giving you half of my world and half of my life. But if we don't last, here's our agreed upon terms, and I'm okay with that. I don't
so
think
how is
that.
that any different from what we talking about? Is my point, I guess,
But what
because
y'all saying?
you emphasize that you don't understand what's the point of getting married if you haven't you going into it with these terms per se, but I don't see it being any different than a prenuptial agreement because you literally can add whatever terms that you want based off of what it is, what your expectations are, or how you want to prevent yourself from
Well,
being
the difference
taken
is you
advantage
still
of.
have to go through an actual divorce and you still have to go through that process. Like, it's not going to just be like, okay, this 5 years is over. Now our marriage is like, we can walk away. It's more like it's still a conscious decision to be like, hey, we're going to separate lives. It's not like we have to make this decision because you're 5 into the contract. So I just feel like the terms are different. I understand what you guys are saying. Like, I understand both perspectives. Absolutely. I think that for me, it just sounds more like a business. And that's not really how my life runs. Like, that's not how my marriage is, or my relationship. That's just not how we are. So it's like hard for me to understand, him coming to the table like, yeah, so we're going to have this 5-year term. In this term, you better cook, clean, have this house. You better have sex with me 5 times a week. Or, after 5 years, I don't know. It might be like, I just can't understand those kind of terms. So, that's just my opinion. I do get what you guys are saying, though. It makes perfect sense, So, yeah. But no, I didn't change, JR.
Well,
It's 4 against 1 this time.
I think, like Capri mentioned, like, hey, as long we're just putting a menu of options out there. The thing is, I think just having the opportunity out there, just like a prenup, like Anton alluded to, that hey, you know what, you have that option to enter your union with a prenup. And Capri, I don't know, like being the expert of that, but I mentioned in California, like there are certain like statutes that are in place based on what happens after so many years based on a prenuptial. So the thing is, this is really not that much of a reach of us talking about this from the aspect of the marriage, because the prenuptial is really almost like, I would say, like a memorandum or addendum to a marriage. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. It just doesn't eliminate the need to divorce. It doesn't eliminate the need to make that decision. It just, that's what the certificate does that I guess I'm uncomfortable with. Other than that, I do understand everything else and you guys are saying, but that's the part I'm like, no, I don't like that. I don't like that. Just feel like people gonna just be divorcing. I mean, separating.
Hey,
it's
but
like
it's
5 or
especially
6
us
marriages
going into
before you know.
2021. There's so many different things that we thought that we wouldn't see, good and bad, right now. But so it's just more so like us being progressive as we evolve as human beings,
Well, let me lock my man down before y'all add the certificate process, and then I got 5 years to perform. I don't have time for that.
Hey, you guys, I want to bring in one more person. It's my friend Larisha. She also has a podcast, which is This, That, and the Third. I'm gonna bring her in right now. We want to get her perspective. Hey, how you doing?
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Hey, how's it going?
I
Good.
appreciate you tuning in. The question that's on the panel right now is: should marriage certificates have an expiration date? We'd love to hear your opinion.
I probably wouldn't mind.
Hey, we should do a poll, JR. Just saying, man. Hey,
Because it's something about that new, right? And I know it is what it is. I mean, to have the option to say, I think we tried it. We had fun. We had some good memories, but I think I'm gonna go this way. Like, why not?
Yeah, I mean, everybody seemed to agree about it. Tawana.
Hey, I do have one stipulation though. Like, if we were to do a
I mean, I
contract,
wouldn't even get married if that's how marriage was. Like terms.
I don't know. Well, see,
I wouldn't even want to get married. For what? I'd just be like, let's just do this partnership.
People say
thing.
that now based on the current format of marriage. So I mean, hey, if anything, we're trying to help ensure integrity and ensure have assurance.
Well, that's because don't nobody want to commit nowadays. Everybody all sketchy. Like, well, let me just go in for 5 years.
But to the point we're making, this contract may make people feel more comfortable to be.
Of course it will. Of course, because it's short term and you can get out of it.
You don't have to opt for the short term. I told you it's a whole life option.
A lifetime is a long time.
It is.
A lifetime is a long time. And I don't think people going to do it with that. Like, it's forever. That's what you have to think. Is it forever? But with these divorce rates, are people even have the mental?
Well, I'm probably the only divorced person on the panel. Am I the only divorced person on the panel? Because I feel like I've been through divorce and I'm still optimistic.
Hey,
I was married. We're optimistic too. We're optimistic, but we're married almost 10
years.
I thought you would have been in support.
I'm optimistic, but I know for me, if put in a position to where I was entering marriage, I would say, let's put something in place, because I may not be the person you want to be married to in 4 years or 3 years or 5 or 10 years. And I don't want a nasty divorce. I don't want to go through all that. I don't want to get lawyers involved. I want to pull out that piece of paper, that agreement, and you could amend it all along the way, just like a prenuptial agreement. You can make it whatever you want it to be. And I guess
my question is, why get married? Why?
You can make that argument every day.
Because marriage also offers you the benefits that you wouldn't get as a single person. I just think that it could work.
To me, you ain't married until after you pass your probationary period, your 5 years term. You can't even. You shouldn't
It's
even get
almost
no
like
benefits.
but it could be certain clauses. It could be like, you know what? I mean, not to compare this, but just like when you get to a certain age, it could be a certain amount of years. Like you go to the DMV where you don't have to keep going through renewal. Like, hey, you reached that ceiling where you know what? Hey, we're just gonna roll the contract. You don't have
After
to get
your
a
third
renewal.
renewal.
Right. You don't have to go to the DMV. We just gonna renew this upon unless you give us tell us otherwise.
Yeah, if you've been together, let's say 35 years, damn a renewal. Y'all not going nowhere. Like, hey, y'all
Really?
good.
Y'all one foot in the grave.
The more y'all talk to me, it's like, okay, after 10 years,
Tawana,
we still renewing contracts. Like,
I would think
come
when
on,
you being
dude.
divorced, you could have just did a non-renewal at year 10 and could have just walked away.
And I wouldn't have to go through that divorce.
You wouldn't have to deal with no strife, no back.
I'm glad I went through that divorce because now I'm very, very conscious of never doing that again,
and
or
takes away the
not
stigma.
wanting to do that again.
It takes away the stigma because people don't like that stigma of divorce. It could be like, hey, I just went for a non-renewal, you know.
That's it, right.
But it's all those marriages will be on your belt though. So you're gonna have 5 and 6 marriages.
It might be, but
I ain't renewed the contract.
So they encourage people to get married to the point. Me and Capri were just saying more people might want to get married. Like, hey, Capri, I might just want to do a 3-year deal. You know what I mean?
Not if I heard
I'm good with that. If somebody might be good with that.
Hey, you guys, I guess.
Come on now.
Hold on.
If I know somebody did 10 non-renewals before me, I'm not trying to marry that fool.
Oh, so now you gonna count renewals to like a body?
Yes, I'm gonna be like,
that's the same thing with going into a relationship. There's people. I mean, not to speak on your relationship, but let's be honest. Let's be honest. Your man was with some people prior to you. Was it 2 people?
Probably me too. So what? Vice versa. But we ain't married all 10 of them fools.
Hey, but nobody's forcing nobody to get
still
married.
A relationship.
Hey, you guys.
Yeah, but I mean,
hey. So, we're gonna.
I mean, I don't know. Relationship, I don't know.
We're gonna put this to rest. I mean,
okay.
It's just like to each his own. Right now, we don't have any contracts in place, but pretty sure there's a lot of people that would like them in place. So we'll see what the future holds on this one. Welcome to Lapeef. Let's talk. We're moving on to our second topic, which is do people really believe in what they are saying? Do people really believe what they are saying? Me and Anton was talking about this a few days ago, and we decided to make it to a topic. I'm gonna let Anton go ahead and introduce this one.
I think the narrative is a lot of people say a lot of things, right? And I've been on Clubhouse a lot lately, listening to a lot of these conversations and having conversations with people. And people say a lot, right? And I'm wondering, people have these expectations. They have these narratives by which they operate. And a lot of times I hear it from women, to be honest with you. They say a lot of stuff, well, I ain't talking to a guy, this and that, or even from the perspective of women, thinking a certain way, or they really feel as though they are receptive to constructive criticism even, right? Like people say, yo, I want to hear it if it's going to benefit me. But when you really say it, do it really hit? Like, are you really receptive? Do you really believe that? Do you really have these expectations for this upcoming guy that you're thinking is going to play this larger role in your life? Or are you just saying that because it sounds good? Are you using it as a talking point because this is what the narrative that's being perpetuated on social media? And so I'm just wondering in general, do people really believe what they saying, or are they just saying that just to sound good?
So I think it's a little bit of both. And when you brought up Clubhouse, that hit home because I've been in these rooms and everybody is an expert. And I'm not taking away from what people do and their credentials they may have, but what worked for you may not work for me and her and her and her. And everybody is swearing by the advice they're getting from these people. And I mean, it's in every single room. And so I think people do believe that Kool-Aid that they drink, that they made themselves. And I think social media has made this thing of everybody can promote their own brand. So everybody is a brand. So everybody is believing their brand to be the best. And that's what they're putting out there. So it's hilarious on that side. As far as relationship wise, I mean, I don't think that's nothing new. I think people want what glitter and what's gold, but don't really necessarily want to work for it or do what's going to be expected of you if you getting all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I do.
Be next. Do people really believe in what they are saying?
I don't know. You wanted to go, Capri?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll go after you.
Okay. I don't know. I almost like you had just mentioned about, is that anything new? I kind of don't feel it's anything new. I feel like people always kind of put out this persona who they present themselves to be. I truly always feel it's based on action, so I just look at everything like that. I think social media, like you said, has heightened that, where you do see more content out there. But it's like with anything, as an adult, you got to decipher what's real and what's not. I feel like it's easy for people to create this character, that they play, and people, you get a following real quick. I mean, people that basically were no one rise to the top just based on going viral or saying something that resonates with a couple people, and they get a platform. Back in the day, before social media, it wasn't that easy to get a platform. You have to be in an actual entertainment industry to earn, but still maintain that platform. Now it could be a no name next week, and just because something they did really silly, or like I've signed up for Clubhouse, but I haven't went into any of the rooms, and like, hey, people are basically projecting themselves to be something they're not. So I think that people are doing that, but it's like, shame on me for being a follower. I almost don't fault the person who's perpetuating this persona of themselves, but more so the fact that there are so many followers in the world that we live in that I am willing to believe anything that comes out of someone's mouth without fact checking, without doing any verification, or honestly, folks don't got critical thinking skills in order to decipher what's real and what's not. That's the sad part. The sad part is not that person, but the person's followers.
So let me add some context to the conversation before you go, Capri. Let's say, for example, I make a decent amount of money, right? Hypothetically speaking, let's say I make $250,000 a year, and I say, well, because I make this amount of money, I publicly say this, because I make this type of money, it don't matter if I'm ugly or not. It don't matter if I'm short and stupid. It don't matter or whatever. Like, I'm awesome anyway. Do I really believe that? Or am I saying that to either make myself feel better about who I am, or I'm just projecting this because I want other people to like me, and I don't necessarily believe this within myself?
I think we live in a society now of likes and comments. It depends on the likes, and it depends on the comments. And as Nick has said, I don't think a lot of people have the critical thinking skill set. So have you ever went and clicked on something, and then you looked at the comments, and you see there's like 100 comments, right? But at least 100 out of those 100 comments, there's at least 40, 50 people who said the same comment, made the same comment. And it's like, did you even read this article? Did you even go the clickbait? Oh, I see, yeah, I'm going to talk about this, but did you read the article? And then they're making comments on an article that was from 8 years ago. So I think people will believe whatever they want you to believe. I mean, have you ever seen? It's like the friend you have that will take a picture while they're laying in the hospital. Likes and comments. Everything is likes and comments. Whether they believe it or not, it's for the general consensus of getting those likes and those comments. Nobody cares about being the best person that they can be. Like you said, if they do something stupid today, they going viral tomorrow. it didn't require any good train of thought. It was just that it was passed along, and just some of the things that I see on video, and I said they did this on purpose. Nothing is like, nothing is, I would say, not even taboo anymore, but nothing is to the like surprise anymore. We no longer censor the things that are being put on the internet, and people just saying the things that they want people to hear. And I think, as Risha said, I think it's a little bit of both. Some people don't believe the stuff that's coming out of their mouth because they know they're going to get the comments and they're going to get the likes.
Hey, Anton, what was that question again? I want to chime in on. What was that question you asked?
Well, no, I had just posed a scenario of a guy that may make a lot of money, right? But he knows he has faults and things, other things in his life, but he says that those things don't matter as much, for example. Or I'll give another example, a girl, right? And she's a high earner, for example, and she feel like she don't need him. I don't need a man, you know what I'm saying? Or nothing like that. Do she really believe that? Or is she just perpetuating this type of behavior because it sounds good, or she want to make herself feel better, or whatever? Is what people really saying a true reflection of how they really feel, or is it something else? Do they really believe that, or are they just projecting this for other reasons?
I don't know. I feel like we live in a society where selling dreams works, man. And some people are great at selling dreams. They're dream sellers. And the thing is, people
selling dreams to themselves, though.
Huh?
I said selling dreams to themselves.
Yeah, they believe, like, what was the term we said? They believe they're, you're drinking the Kool-Aid. They believe their own Kool-Aid. It's like, if you continue to do it over and over, you start thinking like, yeah, that is real.
But the question is do they really believe it, or are they just putting it out there for us to believe?
It's the power of habits, bro. It's actually a book I was reading a while back about that. It was called The Power of Habits. But the thing is, the more you do something off repetition, we do believe it, whether it's good or bad. Just like we say with cheating, right? Cheating is wrong, but off repetition, we feel like, oh, I'm kind of good at this. I can continue to do it. Same thing with a thief, right? They continue to do it because it's like, hey, conditioning. You conditioning your mind to start thinking that, like, yeah, I can do this, even if it's for wrong. In our mind, we think cause and effect. What's the effect from selling a dream? Hey, if I'm a guy, I get the chick I want. I get the job I want. All that, because the thing is, it's a short-term reward. The thing is, a lot of people don't look long-term, but for short-term gain, people are willing to sell dreams, man, however it may benefit them.
Yeah, but that's kind of toxic. Wouldn't you say that's toxic? Think about it. If you're selling yourself
toxic,
if you're selling yourself a dream,
I want to say like deception, though, more.
Yeah.
It's like if you consider all that under the same house of terms, but it's deception. But the thing is, we know we have family, friends that are good with deception. They are great in that space. You believe them until you look at it like, but I know you. Some people, it's easy to sell dreams to people they really don't have a relationship like that. So that's why they take their show on the road and go sell that dream to new people. But we know friends and family, like, I know you. You can't sell that dream to me. So I'm gonna just go elsewhere. So I think they do believe it over the course of time, but I know that it's typically just for short-term reward.
Is it something else you think it's caused from something? Maybe it stems from something else?
Well, insecurity. People aren't 100% with who they are or where they are in life, right? So perception is reality. If I allow people to perceive me a certain way and perceive that my lifestyle is a certain way, then it is, because that's what I want y'all to know. And that's the image I want you all to get from me. So,
but what if somebody trying to tell you the truth?
Look, everybody ain't a therapist. Now, if you screaming out for help, then you need to go to the right people to get that help. If somebody's close to you, then obviously they'll tap into you and make sure you're good and see what's up. But we're not, like, we all got issues. We all need therapists. Like, I don't have time to be concerned with, not to that degree. Like,
no, but you know what, Lauricia, to the point you're making that, like, not to say we're all therapists, but going back to when we, I think, use these terms like thought partners, one of the concepts is having a board of directors, right? The thing is, we all have our own board of directors that we go to for
We
certain
do.
things. We need to make sure, I think, individually that we have, and I always say my squad, whoever's part of your squad, those are people you need to go to. Also, like, hey, let me run something past you. Guess who I met today? Or guess what I heard from such and such? Those are things that if you feel, going back to critical thinking, in order to make smart judgments and informed decisions, you need to vet that shit. And the thing is, I think, like you said, Capri, people don't even vet the stuff they see online. They just automatically see a few comments because it pop up in their news feed, and then like, oh yeah, that's fact. And then the story from like 10 years ago, it's like, obviously, for one, you didn't even click on the link to read it. You're just basing it on somebody else's opinion, and that's how things snowball. And because of social media, it happens so quickly and so frequently, But it's our normal. It is our normal right now. So I think folks just need to do a better job of really fact-checking folks' character.
Hey, Nix, and the rest of the people that's on the panel, you mentioned something about your friends or board of directors. What if your friends or your board of directors or your circle is just telling you what you want to hear?
So you gotta be able to. You have to have somebody that you can go to that is not going to be a yes man, right? Somebody that that you typically don't go to because you don't want to hear what they have to say. Then that's the person you have to go to. Now, if you don't want to do that, then again, it's back to what's going on with you. Do you want to change? Like, because nobody else needs to be investing all this time if you don't want to make a change.
I think it's a little difficult for people that are used to making the calls.
I think we need to stop making excuses for people. Okay.
I'm not making excuses for people, but I'm just talking off experience and what I've seen. If you're a boss, whether it be man or a woman, you're not used to people telling you you're not used to people telling you how to do the smaller things. I would say smaller things, but certain things in your life. Because you're so used to making those decisions. Like you used to being that leader. So when somebody comes in and they may fact check you or they may tell you a reality that you don't want to hear, it's kind of hard for that person to like digest that.
It's hard to eat that humble pie, but that's what you need to do because you wasn't born no boss, right? You had
I was
to
about to say, I agree
fall
with that.
to
A
get
lot of
there.
people ain't even
Like,
bosses. They out here claiming they're
hello,
bosses and they really not. Men
thank
and
you.
women.
So it's just too much. It's just like
That's the
so
sad part.
that term is used so loosely. I mean, I in my line of work, I hire people who have my weaknesses as their strengths, and that affords me to be able to make the mission of my department to where it needs to go. If I was hiring people like me, we probably will only get to a certain point before we are just stagnant. We're not growing as a department, we're growing as a company. And I think people are should be used in the same breath, is that if you are not surrounding yourself with people who, and I'm not even saying like-minded, but will drive you to grow and think outside of the box that you choose to live in, you're going to be stunted. You're going to be left behind. You're not going to grow. And there are people, look at the person sitting in the White House. You think he got people around him telling him what he shouldn't be doing? No, they're all yes people. They're all telling him what he's going to do. This is why this craziness is even happening in our country. And not to even go into that or bring it in politics in this, but there are people who sit at the table who do not surround themselves or sit in a circle of people who are going to tell them what it is. And that might be some psychological, mental issues there. It might be a bigger issue there. That's what I'm saying.
So what I'm kind of gathering from everybody is that people need to actually consider and be open to hearing thoughts from other people that's close to them or people that they value, because sometimes you may not be that person that you think you are, or it may not be going the way that you anticipated to be going, right?
Yeah, but people, it's a lot of people, like Capri, you mentioned about like 45, right? The thing is, it's people who actually believe the lies that they're telling. That's the part that makes this like so just it's
70 million. 70 million people believe the lies that come out of this fool's mouth. You know what?
And it's a lot of people that just they believe they on hype, and it's like I don't know. It's just I don't even know. It's almost like a disease at this point.
I mean, but you just gotta separate yourself from them people. You can't help them all. If they don't want to be helped, you can't help them, and that's a lot of energy.
Well, you know what? It goes back to the followers.
Those are mental issues.
Because going back to like we talked about the board of directors, the thing is that means that I think we talked about earlier. That means you got a board of directors that's full of followers that's continuing to support the BS. It's like the board of directors is supposed to be a group of people that has diversifying a level of thinking and thoughts and stuff. If you got a bunch of people that lie and sell dreams just like you, oh man, ain't nothing about to change. It's just gonna continue. And we see it all the time. We know who those people are. Okay. Some of them might be in the group. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that, but I mean, it's the truth. Let's be honest. I mean, like, it's people out there in the world that just, folks got to have their own, like, I forget, somebody had mentioned in the comment when the group and stuff was talking about, like, being, like, a hood nigga, right? Like, the thing is, some people really aren't, but they're trying to live this lifestyle because they think that that's what people want. And the thing is we see it with rappers. That's mainly black men that try to live up to this lifestyle that really they're not, you know? They get more cases once they become a rapper versus prior to. So the thing is, if these are the people that some folks are aspiring to be, hey, folks need to just, you know, reset their goals. You know, there's so many layers to what's wrong with that issue of people falsifying who they are. But the thing is, this is nothing new.
Okay. All right, y'all. I think we're going to table this one here. Welcome to Lapeef Let's Talk. And if you're just joining in, we're on our third topic right now, which is, are black women unhappy? Are black women unhappy? I think I'm going to go ahead and kick this one off. I'm glad we got an even panel here. We got 3 women and 3 men, so this should be very interesting. I know we did a podcast maybe about a month and a half ago, and we discussed that term, angry black women, and I didn't like it, but fast forward in a month and a half until now, I've been speaking like with a lot of different women and just hearing conversations and hearing men discuss women and hearing women discuss their issues, and I'm starting to believe that there are a lot of black women that are unhappy and angry, but the topic is unhappy. And the reason why I say unhappy is because even women that are in marriages and relationships, you only see the good on social media. But I unfortunately know some things that's behind closed doors, and I know that a lot of women are unhappy, but they want to put on this facade, they want to put on this image as though everything is going good. So I believe that there are a lot of black women that are unhappy. I'm going to turn it over to the panel. I'm going to start with you, Anton. Do you feel like black women are unhappy?
I'm gonna defer to Tawana. I want to, because I know Tawana was a little more reserved on the last topic or whatever. So
I wasn't reserved. I wasn't asked any questions. I mean, I wasn't asked anything, so I just stayed quiet and let everybody else speak. I would have.
No, it's all good.
Gladly gave my opinion. I disagreed with most of y'all, so I was like, maybe I'm on the roll today. I'm like B Nick today. I'm like, right. He didn't ask me, so I just stayed quiet. But you know, black women. I mean, you know how I feel about this. This is ridiculous. That's how I feel about it. But let me speak to it, I guess, since you asked this crazy question. Because let's say this. People in general are unhappy. It's not about a color. It's not about a race. It's unhappy white marriages, Asian marriage. I know Hispanic.
But I want you to focus on black women though on this.
Okay, we can focus on black women, but I want to make sure that I remove that emphasis as if black women are the only people experiencing unhappy relationships and marriage. And then you need to change your circle is what I will say. Because why are you hanging with so many people unhappy in their life? Like, what's wrong with you? Because I don't even really see that as a problem. I have a lot of people in my life that are happy. If majority of the people are complaining to you, if a majority of the women in your circle are complaining to you, then I feel like that's the circle issue. It's not really a representation of black women in general. Now, I do agree that there are a lot of issues and challenges that Black women face on a daily that could also translate into this unhappy and angry phase. But I don't believe that overall Black women are unhappy in their lives. And I don't believe that that represents the majority of us. I do believe that there are some people who have some difficulties and some challenges, and you have a point when you say, hey, you know, and maybe on top of that, also being a Black woman can also give you some additional challenges that may make it a little heavier. And that's you know, my take on it. I don't believe that it's a Black woman thing. And I know you say let's focus on Black women, but I'm just saying, like, yeah, maybe that's your circle. You maybe can expand your circle and see that there are women who really have, you know, great lives and are happy in their lives and can present you a different narrative and a different perspective. Because I just don't, I don't agree with that. So yeah, that's just my opinion.
All right, I appreciate that. I mean, unfortunately, I mean, my circle is black people that I work with. You know, I have a few white people here and there, but I'm just speaking on my experience and what I've been hearing lately, and especially like some of the things that I wouldn't even be surprised. Like there are a lot of people that are unhappy marriages, which is kind of crazy. You know, they won't tell they husband,
Right.
but they will come to work and they will talk about their business to everybody else. So I just think that there's a lot of unhappy people. But again, we're here to have these tough conversations. Lauricia, do you feel like black women are unhappy?
I have to agree with Tawana. I get tired of this emphasis on black women. Can black women be magic like all the time? And that's why we get unhappy because we got to be on point all the time. Like white women are unhappy too. You know, they just tuck their stuff in and hide it better, right? They don't blab it out and talk about it to everybody. But I do agree that we aren't happy. We aren't happy with ourselves, with decisions we've made, right? And we can change all of that. So it's not like black women are stuck in this position forever. We can change it. We can come out. You know, like we got a female vice president. If that don't motivate your ass to get up and do something, then yeah, but I don't know what's gonna do it. Like
Well, Michelle Obama should have gave him some motivation.
they probably, you know, it was like, yeah, Michelle, but she his wife. You know what I'm saying? So come on, like, you know, we got a first husband now. Let's get it together.
Capri, are black women unhappy?
I guess I will kind of piggyback off of Tawana, Lucia, what they said. The narrative of Black women being unhappy, it gets old and it's tiring, you know, it almost leads women, Black women, to feel like nothing could bother them, nothing, they can't be unhappy, they can't be, you know, anything less than weak, or, you know, the narrative is old and it's tiring, and it's the thing is, oftentimes even the narrative of Black women don't get married. I know majority of my friends are married, you know, and though they are not they're not the sample size of Black women. However, you know, as Tawana said, maybe you need to expand your circle of friends, because there's plenty of Black women who are very happy with themselves, happy in a relationship, happy by themselves. You know, you're speaking to one. I'm very happy. I wake up with a smile on my face every day, and I get to it. I do what I need to do. I mean, if I want to, you know, get on a plane and go to Hawaii tomorrow, I can very well do that and be happy there, just as I will be happy in California. You know, so I think the narrative of Black women being unhappy is is old, is played, and we need to start changing the narrative by talking about, you know, why are Black women happy? Why are they, you know, why are they doing the things that they're doing? Have you seen what happened in Georgia today? Who was that driven by? A lot of people that look like us, Black women particularly. So I feel like we are not spending enough time to have those conversations about Black women's strength, the things that they're accomplishing in our communities, how they're raising our children, how, you know, how educated they are. Though that should be the topic instead of the topic of us being unhappy. And I know this is your show, and this and this is the topic today. But I really would like for us collectively, and a lot of times, I would like Black men to be supportive in the more positive narratives and topics that surround us as women.
I I appreciate each and every last one of you guys' thoughts on that, and you know I agree to a certain degree, but this is a show, and I feel like as though we don't have those tough conversations, and when the tough conversations come, I feel like women want to say, well, why are we having this talk? You know, why can't we just focus on this? Why can't we focus on that? So you mean to tell me that you guys don't see any women that are Black women that are unhappy?
But unhappy about what?
So here's
exactly?
The thing. That's what I'm saying. So here's the thing. Can I be unhappy tomorrow about something that happened? Yes, but am I an unhappy person? And why do we get labeled that way? And that's the problem, because there is other people, like everyone goes through something every once in a while. And it's like, oh, so now I'm an unhappy woman because my life at that moment, I had a problem with something that happened. Like, I don't really get that perspective. Yes, I do think people go through challenges. Like, I mean, I'd be upset in one instance, and then maybe like for the next several months, I'm happy. But like when I get judged because I was upset that one time, and it goes back to what Capri said. It's like, why can't we be vulnerable? Why can't we be like, why can't we just be sad one day? And why do we have to get labeled as unhappy or angry or miserable? Like, why is it such a label, a stigma?
Why can't we just be women?
Why can't we just be women, humans? Why are we just
going through everyday
Why are you shaking your head?
Hey, I'm feeling attacked right now. I'm just asking the question.
I will just say this. I feel like I work in solution. So you bring a problem to me, I will hope that you would provide solutions to the problem that you're bringing. So you can have a collective thought and buy-in to how we could change the narrative about Black women being unhappy.
True.
Anton, are Black women unhappy, and can you address the women on the panel as far as why do they have to be labeled unhappy? Why can't they just be women?
I'm not gonna say y'all lying, but I think that there's a large fabrication of the truth in an attempt to remain positive and to paint yourselves in a more positive light than that's really true. And I'm just gonna keep it a bean. I'm gonna keep it 100, because, like, okay, I'll give you a few different examples. I deal with women of all races and creeds and heights and weights and whatever. The only race of women that I ever see react so extra and so explosively and so matter-of-factly, and they will snatch your dreams out and all of this other type of stuff, is Black women, yo. And that's just real. Like their level of reaction, or their heightened reaction to even the most simple things, or the things in which you would feel as though you could have an objective conversation, is so much more heightened from Black women than I see from any other race of women. And so when you take that into consideration, when I'm in these rooms, right, and I'm looking at these comments, and I'm looking at the different reactions, every single room that's created by a Black woman is something that has to do with toxic masculinity. It's something to do with why aren't Black women protected. It's always an issue. So if you emphasize why we can't emphasize all of the greatness that comes along with celebrating you, then I would say, why don't you guys do it for yourself more often than validating or requiring other people to do it on your behalf? Like, why is the narrative and the conversation have to be shifted when the conversation and the narrative that's being perpetuated by your own sisters is completely different from what you're advocating for and highlighting for us to do for you. So my conversation is not necessarily as it relates to how can we be solutions oriented. I'm just going to deal straight with the question that's posed on the panel. I don't get the level of reactions that I get from other women of other races as I do from women that is the same color as me. That's just facts. That's real. That's real life.
And
Okay, I
before
agree.
hold on, before the women speak, let me give B next opportunity, and then we can go ahead and try to put this all together. Next, are black women unhappy?
I don't know. I want to say I'm unsure, but I do have some perspectives where Capri, you had mentioned about this narrative, right? And I think that over the course of at least most of my life, I could say that black women are kind of portrayed as being unhappy. I think about like three different aspects of women that have children. We've seen it in media or even just people we know that like I had a baby because I felt, unhappy. So this was the only way I knew that I would be able to feel happy by having a child, not being with the man, but just because I felt empty and this was going to fill that void of unhappiness. Or when a woman is promiscuous, where, they have multiple partners, where we say like, oh, well, the father wasn't around. So it led to a level of unhappiness and a void that wasn't filled for that woman as she was able to grow up. Or we seen like with a woman that is, like that's a boss, that's, career oriented. And then what's the narrative? Oh, they're throwing themselves into their career because really they're unhappy. So this is a way to get through this outlet. And I'm not saying it's necessarily true, but those are the narratives that are placed out there. I'm not saying that those aren't real narratives, but it creates like it's used as this broad brush that is stroked on behalf of all black women, that black women have babies in order to fill that need of unhappiness, or they mess around with a lot of partners out of unhappiness, or they throw themselves into their jobs out of unhappiness. So I'm not saying it's not real. I can't give you a percentage of how factual that is, but that is something that's out there. And I think that just, I don't know. That's all I can really say on it. That, that's something that those are examples why I think this conversation, these topics come up, because those are the examples that are portrayed of why black women are unhappy, at least in those, it's other, it's other settings, but those are kind of like three prominent ones that we hear in media on how it's portrayed through movie, through film, through even social media, so I think there is an aspect out there of black women that may fit into those categories. I'm not saying it's you all, but I don't know. The thing is, I can't say it's not true, but I can't say how significant it is either, how prevalent it is. I'm not going to say like, oh, that represents 90% of black women, that storyline. I don't know, but that's what's out there. So Capri, I know you mentioned that that's the perception. And then what do you have? Like, the black girl magic, right? In order to combat that. But then now you have the narrative now becomes these two major extremes. You have this exemplar woman that is bossing up and doing everything she's supposed to do. Then you have this unhappy, very sad, very low self-esteem black woman. And you never hear about no one in the middle, right? So the thing is, those are usually the two narratives that you hear in media. Hey, you have this rock star woman that's all things, and then you have this black woman that's unhappy, that is nothing.
And a lot of things that you have touched on is it also gives not only is it negative that black women can't throw themselves into their careers, that they're militant, everything. This is what other races do too, and Anton, you talking about how black women respond to certain things. Okay, not every black woman is about to snatch your life, get in your face, roll the neck, raise their voice. Sometimes I'm the only person of color sitting at the table. And I have very how critical and difficult and challenging conversations with people who do not look like me. And I'm not about to snatch nobody's life. I'm not going to be rolling my neck, rolling my eyes, cussing, and carrying on. Not every woman, black woman, acts that way. And I'm sorry that you haven't had a better experience where Black women have effectively communicate with you
No, I
about roles
have.
and they.
I'm not saying that it's all women. I'm saying that when it does happen, it only happens from women that are Black. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's all been negative or anything like that. I'm just saying that I have never, and I've dealt with a significant amount of white women and a significant amount of Asian women and Spanish women, and they don't play like that in my experiences, honestly.
I guess my question is, because of their communication,
Oh.
does that make those women unhappy?
They probably the most unhappy. Like just because they're not vocal, they're happy. So because I'm animated, I can't be happy in life. See, the thing is, that's the difference. Just because I am animated and I react to something you said, that has absolutely nothing to do with me being unhappy. That is not the same thing. And also, a woman who is super quiet and meek and does not mean she's happy. It means that she could mean the absolute opposite. And so what happens is Black women, because we're vocal, because we're passionate, because we're all these things, we become the face of everything demonized. So now we are too loud. So therefore you ain't happy. That don't mean anything. That is not the same thing.
Usually when people scream and shout and they snatching dreams out the air and all of that, usually that's a reflection of some level of anger. And
I don't care who judges me. So that's how
levels,
you feel. Though. Yeah, that's just.
I believe that, and
I just feel that that's because you want to compare me to your white counterparts and your other counterparts, and you feel the need to make me feel like I am. That's what you say.
No accountability.
To make me feel like I have to measure up to that person in order for you to see me as a human and to see me as something different. That is so incredibly dismissive of.
You know what's so interesting though?
That's
whenever people call out a Black guy on something or whatever like that, we just deal with whatever is the conversation is. We don't compare ourselves to white men or all of these other things as it relates to being able to have the conversation. And that's another reflection. It's like, why is it all the time? Like, it's almost like, why can't we talk about what's in front of us? Why is it always a pushing it on somebody else or a comparison? I'm saying that
you said no other woman.
No.
That you are associated with.
I'm saying
the
that
other
this
women
is my
of other
experiences.
We're not like that.
You can't say that my experiences is not my experiences. They're real.
I'm gonna continue.
They're valid.
Call me unhappy then, because guess what?
I'm
gonna be who I am.
You're not even able to.
And if you feel that I'm unhappy, then you know what? Keep on going.
You're not even able to have an objective conversation with somebody.
That's objective.
Or in most instances, without somebody, usually the woman, the Black woman, getting emotional about the conversation and not being able to stay on subject. That's another reflection of it.
You said this is objective. This is objective.
Hey, Nix, how do you feel about what's happening right now? You agree with Anton or Tawana?
I agree with what I say. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Listen. We've seen it. We've seen it countless times on this show. And when somebody say, Anton, you trash, or Anton, I hate your narrative, or Anton, you so stupid, or whatever like that, I'll be like, that's just me. Like I own it. Whatever it is, I defend myself or whatever, but I never change the narrative and say, well, if I was a white man, you wouldn't be like, I don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's me, you dealing with me specifically. Let's deal with the issues as it relates to me. I don't switch the narrative in order to try to make my point.
think you're trying to talk over me, and everyone heard you bring up the comparison, not just me. So y'all can all stay silent. Y'all know he brought up the comparison. He's the one who talked about how he has dealt with women of other races, and they are not like Black women. So if you want to bring up the comparison, you damn right I'm going to address it. That is the insult. Now,
exactly.
If you want to talk about Black women and you want to talk about how we react, cool. But if you want to insult us then you're going to hear my backlash.
So where's the insult?
And if you think I'm unhappy because you think that's on you.
Hold on, no.
Nix, we
That's
good.
on you.
I'm about to shift the narrative, Nix. At what point did I insult anybody by describing what my experiences are?
When you compare us to any other race,
that's another reflection.
But it's okay for you to
being
compare.
Emotional and taking it personal. I didn't even pose the question. If you want me to answer it honestly, and then we want to have an honest conversation about it, that's what we should do. But we adults, it's no reason for somebody to get emotional. I ain't call nobody out their name. I didn't necessarily say anything about anybody as it pertains to their personal characteristics. I described my experience, and then you took it personal. I can't help that.
I like how you try to paint these narratives.
And then Capri says,
I don't. Who believes this mess? Capri said, why can't we have the conversation based off of A, B, and C, for example, how awesome Black women are, and that's a valid conversation. But how can I even have the conversation if I can't even say what my real life experiences are, and then listen to you say what your real life experiences are for us to have a conversation? If it turned emotional and it turned into a debate, it's no longer a conversation, and that's why people be saying angry Black woman, because it's no longer a conversation. You didn't get interrupted.
It turns emotional.
You did not get interrupted. We let you say that entire speech.
Like really angry and unhappy as being both the same emotion, though. Either.
Because I can be angry at what you just said, but that don't mean I'm unhappy. Right.
Can we contextualize?
But nobody said anything personal about you.
Earlier.
And don't nobody.
In what setting are we talking about unhappiness?
Nobody said nothing personal about
it. Nobody needs you to define what an adult is. I could care less. I guess maybe everybody else care about what you do.
Like in high school,
I could care less.
So trash.
Can we put this into context, JR?
I could care less.
In the aspect of relationships, in life, in career, or in family.
I agree with that.
I think that this is very broad also. So can we contextualize this based on
yes. Are you saying people are unhappy in
relationships?
Well, here's the thing.
Well, I mean, I say what I said. I mean,
yeah.
Go ahead. Who was?
It's just one of those.
Capri was about to say something. So I'll go ahead, Capri.
I would say, as far as relationships, though, I still don't think it should be demonizing Black women to say all Black, majority of the Black women in their relationships are unhappy and can't. I just feel like that's just too broad of just subjecting Black women to this narrative that we're unhappy in relationships. There's plenty of people who are happy, and I'm not, and I believe this because I'm saying this, but I just don't think that Black women should be deemed as these people who enter in relationships are unhappy. I just don't think that's a realistic view to say, and like I said, I'm more about focusing on the things when it comes, and I don't want to say that we're going to ignore that there aren't people who are unhappy, but we're women, we're human. People have moments of unhappiness. Now, those that choose to stay in that mindset, that's something different. But to put the Black women labeled as unhappy in relationships, that's where I have to draw the line. That's where I'm concerned.
Well, I guess I'm
wondering now they saying more unhappy than like we're unhappy in more than others. I don't know. We're more unhappy in our relationship than anyone else. I don't really
because the thing is, the question itself is really a yes or no question. Hey, are Black women unhappy? No. Okay. Yes. But if we're staying true with this question that's being asked that women are unhappy, I guess what would be the root causes out of that, whatever that group, whatever percentage that is, why would Black women be unhappy? For those that are unhappy, what would be the root causes of why those particular Black women are unhappy in relationships?
But I think,
I guess, are we still staying true to relationships?
But I still will go back to, this is not a Black woman thing. This is a woman, a human thing. You know, how many women are in relationships who are unhappy? Now,
Right.
if you want to focus on Black women, that's still a generalization on Black women. We come in all different walks
Well,
of life.
well, like I'm not trying to.
There's different reasons.
Well,
Like when I posed
I
this
mean,
question, like it wasn't to be an attack on Black women. It's just that, if I'm not mistaken, majority of our
Well, the
circle,
why? I think you're asking.
like our
For
friends are Black, right?
those
Just
who
asking
would be
why.
impacted, right?
It's just trying to kind of dive into it to get people thinking, to try to understand as to why we may feel that way. It's not an attack,
yeah.
but I still think that we have to have these tough conversations.
Well,
Hey,
I didn't
Lapeef,
feel an
let's-
attack from the question.
Yeah.
I felt like the question I just don't agree with that Black women are unhappy. I said no. I know that, you know, the men said, yeah. I feel like, no, that's not a true statement. And I expressed the reasons why I felt that wasn't a true statement.
You know, because at the same
Right.
token, I could make an argument and say that I honestly believe that a lot of Black men are unhappy.
But you did say a lot. You said are Black women. So,
Well,
I mean, yes, are a lot of Black women. Are you saying that, or are you saying some Black women are unhappy? Because then, of course, those are true statements. But
JR,
are
the
Black women
problem is
unhappy?
that the problem, JR, is that nobody can disagree without it being attacked. Nobody can give context to how they feel or what their experiences are without somebody else feeling attacked. And that's the problem, because how can you really have a conversation if you can't really truly express how you feel from the other side of the coin or the other narrative? It's not one way, and it's never going to be one way. That's the whole idea behind the conversation, is to understand why somebody else feels differently. Don't mean that they right, don't mean that they wrong, but at the same time, in the same way that you don't want to be invalidated as to how you feel and be able to express how you feel and what your experiences are and how that shaped you to be the way that you are, you also have to allow another person, even if it doesn't align with your principles and the way in which you see things, you got to allow them to be able to communicate and express what their experiences are and why they feel the way they feel also. And if at any point that gets cut off because somebody else gets bothered or offended, then the conversation is dead, because it's an inability to be able to communicate at that point.
Hey, before anybody else, hold on. Before anybody else speaks, it's a lot of energy on the table right now, and we about to go filter into our last topic, and I want to carry that energy over into that topic, which I think is kind of similar, so to speak, depending on if we're going to talk about the woman or the man.
Yeah.
But welcome to Lapeef Let's Talk. If you're just joining us, we are on our last topic, which is single at 35. Is it a choice or are they a problem? Single at 35, a choice or are they the problem? So the reason this came up is because I feel like a lot of people around the age of 35, you know, if they're single, I'm kind of questioning if it's by choice or if they're having a hard time and they just don't really come to terms with it. So I just want to kind of open that question up on the table while we still got this energy. Larisha, single at 35, a choice or are they a problem? Your thoughts?
I think it can be a little bit of both. Some people, like I know I had a lot of girlfriends who wanted to be married, have kids by the age, and it's like they working against their time clock, right? And then I have another group that are in no rush, close to 40, and are like, no, I'm good. Like I'm happy. So I just think it depends on the person. Now, if you have like haven't had any successful relationships, then that might be an issue, right? But if you're just single by choice and or you just got out of this relationship for whatever reason, so I just think it depends on the person and the situation, but ultimately it is that person's choice.
Tawana, single at 35, a choice or are they the problem?
Listen, I don't want to assume that just because somebody's 35, they want to be in a relationship. So I have a hard time, you know, answering that because I don't want to say, yeah, I'm 30, all women who are 35, they want to be in a relationship at this time, or all men who are 35, they're I agree with what Larisha said because I feel like it's true. Like if you haven't had a successful relationship and you've been in multiple and you're 35, then yes, that could be you are the problem. Because if you want that, right? If you want a successful relationship, but you've been unable to maintain one, and now you're 35 and it's still a challenge for you, maybe that is something you need to start researching and looking into and trying to figure out how can I develop these skills to be in a successful relationship. Yes, I think that's an age where you get enlightened and you're like, wait a minute, I'm over that 30 hump. I need to start, thinking about life differently. So yes, I do think that to some degree, it might not be a choice. It might be because you don't have the skills to successfully be and partner in a relationship. And that is something that's bigger than just a choice, right? That's like, I cannot have a successful relationship in my life, and I don't know how to partner with somebody. And if that is a goal of yours and you're having trouble with it, then yes, that's something that I think you can get help. But remember, it's 35 years of this kind of issue, or maybe shorter than that, because you don't start a relationship when out the womb. But yes, it's years of you not knowing how to do this, so it's going to take years of you to get to this level that you need to get to. So I think that you're right that it could be it could be a problem. It could be something that really needs to be addressed. Do I say that people who are 35 and they're single, something's wrong with them? No, I don't. I don't want to present that, and I do want to redirect that narrative because that is not necessarily true. And there could be many different factors. Like she said, just freshly out of a relationship, it could be a choice. Especially if you were married for a long time and then maybe you divorced now, maybe you just don't want to be in a relationship. Like it's so many circumstances that you could be 35 and not in a relationship or single. And it is a choice, very much so. But yeah, absolutely. I think that, if you struggle with relationships, you're 35 and you haven't had a successful one and you 35 and you're still struggling, like that's probably not a choice no more, honey. It's probably a problem that you need to start to research and figure it out. So yes, I guess I got mixed opinions about it. You muted, JR. You muted.
First time I'm muted. I said I'm gonna answer that question. Single at 35, a choice or are they the problem? I want to lean more on that there might be a problem. It might not be them, but it could have been them. And so now they have no choice. That could be the situation as well. I mean, you have someone that has been living it up all through the 20s and early 30s, and then now that they're at 35, they're looking for a relationship and they're having a hard time for whatever reason. Then you may have people that are in relationships that been into about 2 or 3 relationships, and they might have been the problem. And then you might have somebody that's been in 2 or 3 relationships that might have kicked it in their 20s and early 30s and been in a couple of relationships, never took it serious, so to speak, and then now that they are 35, they are having a hard time because there was a underlying issue with them that they never saw, and it's a pattern that just keep repeating itself, insecurities, whatever the case may be, and they're carrying it over until the mid 30s. So,
right.
I think a lot of people sometimes at their age have to look back and understand and try to see, is there a possibility that they're not in a stable relationship, or their future is not the way that they anticipated it to be because of them. It could be the other person, but sometimes it's usually a cause and effect. So sometimes it may have been something you may have not been doing. You may not have been communicating well. You might have been doing everything else well, but maybe that's the issue. Maybe it could have been the sex. Maybe it could have been, you were doing you for the most time. We don't know, but I do think it's something to consider. You may not have to blame yourself, but at the age of 35, man or woman, I think that we all have to consider that. And time. Single at 35, a choice, or are they the problem?
You don't really want to know my answer, fam.
I do.
You
I want to
really
know your
don't.
answer.
You really don't want to know my answer, bro. And maybe you should maybe you should let Larisha answer, bro. Honestly, because
I think once you
all
hit
right, listen.
50, it's a problem. But
No,
Oh,
I
they're gonna
think
be
that
there.
is I think that it becomes a problem for a lot of women once they start hitting 30. And I think for men it becomes more of a choice. For women it becomes more of a struggle. And again, I think that more or less that's more or less aligned with, and a lot of people don't like this, but the sexual marketplace value as it relates to the things that men desire versus the things that women desire. I think that women's marketplace value significantly decreases as they age versus men whose marketplace value significantly increases as they age. You don't see a lot of relationships of really younger men getting married to really older women, but vice versa, you see older men marrying younger women. And the reason that is because the things that men desire, especially if you're a man of valuable high resources, you have more options as you age because your earning potential goes up, thus your sexual marketplace value goes higher. Whereas for women, they'll never be greater in most instances than they were in their late 20s. And so as they age, the things that men desire out of women decreases versus for men it increases. But conversely, the things that men want from women, like they women peak really early when men are very low in the sexual marketplace value. It's funny because if we had this conversation the other day in my living room, and we was like, man, well, how come certain women was able to snag the Denzels? Well, they snagged them very early in their career before they ever became what they are today. But if you become what you are today prior to you getting them earlier in their career, it's a lot more difficult to become that woman that guy at that height is desiring, especially when you look at who it is that they married to today. So when you take that into consideration, again, to answer your question, it comes back to, I think that is more difficult as women age than it is for men. That's not to say that it's not difficult for men and women, but I think that it's more difficult for women as they age than it is for men.
Yeah, I think it's a
I
double
hope you know.
standard, like Anton was saying, because think about it. We're even no one kind of articulated it until Anton mentioned it. But are we talking about being 35 years of age as a man or 35 years of age as a woman? I think no one really even has any thoughts about a 35-year-old man that's single. It's just like, okay, it's so normalized that it's not even worth a discussion to say like, hey, how do y'all feel about 35-year-old man that's single? It's like, okay, the same way I feel about a 30-year-old man that's single, a 40-year-old man that's single, a 25-year-old man that's single. But it really is a thing with women. And I think a lot of this kind of goes back to just us having different bodies as far as being able to reproduce. This also kind of comes up with, pregnancy as well. Because even though we're not talking about that, but it's like, hey, if you're single, that's also saying, even though that's not part of the question, but did you create a family by age 35 also? And I think that would be kind of like a more kind of pointed kind of direction of this conversation. Because now we're talking about, did you build a family? Because then now it gives more context to say like, oh, you're single, so that means you never developed your family, which meant that you have to have a relationship in order to have this family. So, and I think that the thing that we have oversight of, that even if we're talking about 35, but we're talking about 2021, I also feel there's a factor, is there someone that's now at a stage where they're questioning their sexual orientation as well? And I think that's something that we don't talk about it, but there is an aspect of people that are still questioning their sexuality as they get older, where they now are owning who they are. And while we think like, oh, something must be wrong with this person. Yeah, from the toxic aspect, I think sometimes that gets kind of like oversaturated with thinking everything's toxic. If anything, it may be someone that's really figuring out who they are and what's their sexual preference as they get older, because we feel like whoever you are, man or woman, you own who you are once you reach a certain age, like a 35 and a 40. You'd be like, yeah, you know what, this whole time, yeah, you know what, that's why I was single, because I'm gay. So the thing is, I think
that's serious. That's because I had an uncle, we did not know he was gay, and he had a partner, but he never brought. So we like thought he was just a single man. Like we like, what is going on? Like you ain't gonna have no kids, or you know what's going on?
But see, for a man, it gets
we thought it was weird. Still, we thought it was weird too, because we like we don't never see nobody around. Like what's going on? You're not gonna have a kid, and then. And when he died, then I was like, wait, he had a partner for 16? What's going on?
Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. So for our audience, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm open whatever folks' sexual orientation. But there's also something that is a variable when we think about somebody being 35 and single. It's not a matter of something being wrong, but that's another layer that I think we need to consider. But I think we do look at it like, I think as a woman, you probably need to be more strategic in those younger years if you're looking at this kind of this idealistic perception that you want to fulfill from your parents or from family or from friends. Honestly, like, you know, men can get away with being almost 45, 50, 55 years old, still single. Hell, they may have a roommate. Who cares? Because they're men. If we have a woman that's 35, like, man, you still got roommates? You know, it's totally viewed, the perception is totally like double jeopardy. But I think there's more so like if somebody's single, it's just more so saying that I think at that stage, even though we see people having children at older ages, I think they've committed to say that, you know what, hey, children may not be my thing. I think not necessarily single, but around that age, as you would decide like, hey, I've decided that I'm not going to pursue having kids naturally.
Well, you know what, though? A lot of people are deciding not to have children.
Yeah.
Like, I have several friends that don't want to have children. And I thought it was weird because, like, I'm popping out all these kids, right? But they don't want to have children. And they are very, like, strict about that. And some people are like, no, like, I'm going to take birth control for the rest of my life if I have to.
You feel like, hey, I got to partner up. You know what I mean? I got to be strategic on how.
But if you don't want to have children, you may not feel that way. You may be like, I can wait till I'm 40, or you know what I'm saying? Like, so I guess we can't always assume that, right? Because they're 35, it wasn't a choice to just be single. I guess that's the question. I feel like more so than is something wrong, right? It's just like, can we say that I'm 35 and it's and I know like we like to separate sexes. I purposely don't do that, but I do get the point. Like women, you know, it's considered a geriatric pregnancy at 35. It's like that word is such an old word. It's like, why even say that, right?
No one cares if a man is 35 and single.
Nobody cares. But when you're over 35 and you want to have a child, you know, it's like almost like you're on, you know, bed rest. You know, it's
Anton brings up a point. The thing is, historically, men do date younger. So the thing is, like, far as how, like, men are very physical beings on how they look at that. I don't think women, I mean, it is about attraction. Don't get me wrong. But the thing is, we all know that we don't look the same way we looked 10 years ago when I was 20 or whatever. Like, hell, I had hair. You know what I mean? That's something that I've came to understand. I don't look the same way.
Oh, that's not a choice. That's a problem.
But all this is genetics. But for a man, we've seen it regardless of what ethnicity, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, men tend to date younger. So the thing is, by the time a man finally decides, like, hey, I want to be married. And I know I always use my father as an example. He was like 45, 50 by the time he decided to say, like, yeah, I finally want to get married. at the age of 50, the right age of 50. But guess what? He dated younger, right? So the thing is like men aren't usually looking for someone in their peer group when they finally decide to date younger, unless it's just something that strategically happened during that window of time between that 20 to 30 age range, if not younger, you know?
Right.
Well, it's same age younger, because a lot of men date the same age, you know.
Yeah, I think
mean,
it
that's not
changes as you get
younger.
older.
That's your same age.
But I don't know. I think it still is a gap. Like, people have a range, I think. And maybe that'd be for another topic, JR. But I think people date within a certain range. Some people may be a 5-year range, 10-year range. Hell, it might be 20-year range for some people. Some people don't do it. Some people do. But I think men tend to date outside of their peer group more than women.
Or when she turned 50, you can trade her in for 225s and then call it a day.
If you got the stamina.
Hey,
They
man, I
don't.
got pills for that.
They
men,
don't.
Not for women.
They don't. Them pills don't work like that.
But see, that show how slanted it is.
Horny goat don't work that good.
They got pills for women.
Horny goat don't work that good. I'm telling you. Y'all gotta stay within your little range. That's what
that sounds like that gas station stuff.
Yeah, that is. That's what I used to work at a gas station. I used to work at a gas station, and no men used to come for that horny goat every day. Like, can I get some horny goat? I'm like, dang. So like they need it like a drug. So and it's cheaper than, I guess, the blue pill. So people come in there.
Women not about to go to no gas station for no whatever.
They need the K1 jelly.
Pink passion.
They need the K1 jelly. It gets dry. It gets real dry. You can, sometimes you need that as you get older. So it's things that happen. It's things that happen.
Yeah, this conversation is above my pay grade, bro.
Hey, we talking about
we talking about, man.
Y'all the ones who brought up the sexes.
Drag
We
cats
could
and
have
blue
just
pills.
kept it on the 35. Y'all want to separate us, talk about the men and women. So we could have just kept it on the 35.
No, let's be honest. No one cares if a man is 35 and single. And oh no, women, you're on the call. Is this a thing for women? Man, he's 35 and he's single. Something ain't right.
Nobody cares.
No
one cares.
In fact, they may look at him. They look more at him probably as a hot commodity. That he's 35, no kids, single. Oh, girl, he don't got no kids.
Like, wow.
Single.
The no kids make you a hot commodity.
It's a little different for women. Oh, she's 35. Can she have kids? Is something wrong with her? So it is very different depending on the gender. But yeah, nobody's questioning whether 35-year-old man is single. Like I said, for women, he's a hot commodity. Oh, no kids? Okay. He's 35, he's single.
That's why they 60 years old. That's why they 60 years old.
Don't have a family.
That's why they 60-year-old raising 8-year-olds. Come on now, like, you too old. Have kids when you're young. Like, I do think we should start telling men, like, that's not cute to be 60 and with an 8-year-old. Like, that's not cute.
You can't tell us that because we at the top of our desirability.
My son is older than his uncle.
But going back to something about the ability,
not always at the top now.
Yeah.
If you 40 and above and you got yourself together and you fit and you look decent and you carry yourself
and your money is long, let's be clear. Your money better be long.
But you just spoke to my whole sexual marketplace value theory. It's accurate.
Because this goes down.
Oh yeah.
So you need something to hold that attention.
Whatever. Okay.
Maybe you can buy another one if you got money. Eventually, we need you to replace that one.
It don't go down if you fit and you got yourself together. Not even a little bit.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Not even a little bit.
Y'all ain't even reached that.
So like, is it safe to say? Okay, you guys. Like, is it safe to say that when it comes to men, 35 and up, that it's not an issue? But if a woman's 35 and up and single, that it's a problem.
No, I'm not saying that. Y'all go
I'm
ahead
saying
and
if she wants kids and all that other stuff.
What about you, Nix? 35 and up, man, good. 35 and up women, issue.
Yeah, I think it's the issue depending on what my expectations are, like what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
Women, you have until 40. I want to put that out there. Okay. You can have children and you can have healthy children until the age of 40. I am 37.
We ain't talking about the children. We just talking about it. We just trying to figure out if it was an issue.
No, Larisha said.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The issue varies.
Right.
Yeah.
The issue varies.
Yeah. Larisha said if you want to have children, JR. That's why I said it. That's why I was speaking to her point.
Gotcha.
Hey, women, you have until
hey, just because you're 35 to me, that don't mean nothing. I'm automatically not going to assume that, hey, you 35. Oh man, something ain't right. She toxic. I can't say that.
Well, I mean,
I think you got more of an issue if you're 35 with children versus 35 and truly single without children. That should have been the topic. Hey,
she could have got abortions.
She
could have got all abortions.
That's a whole nother topic. Huh?
JR thought she could have got abortions.
No, JR it's a whole nother.
Like if she hey, next. If she ain't got 8 abortions, hey.
JR, you are a hot mess.
It's real. It's real.
What you gonna ask somebody like? So how many abortions?
No, she ain't gonna say. No, she ain't gonna tell you the truth. You got to find that out. Like her best friend. Like her best friend had to sneak this and tell you.
So now we automatically, if she's 35, she gotta have at least a couple of abortions on her.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that if she had, like, the fact that you said that she's 35, it might be an issue. But there are some responsible women that move around in a certain way, and they want to keep moving around so they don't have no kids. But when she turns, when she turns 35 with no kids, you still have to evaluate that situation as if she do have kids. I think that at the age of 35, you single, you got to kind of get that history report. Like, okay, what's been going on? When the last time you been in a relationship? How long was their relationship? Because it might be something there, especially if you're looking to pursue her. I think that you got to look into your.
Can I ask, like, why is 35 significant?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's the danger zone, bro. Like women approaching middle age. Like okay, so we have this hypothetical.
They're not there yet. I can see it.
Wait.
I said approaching middle
what
age.
Age is middle age though? Because I'm like
in your 40s. In your 40s is generally middle age. Or if you're approaching middle age, that's generally the danger zone for women. So we had a general consensus, or like a bunch of guys that kind of said what their thoughts are as far as dating, and the general consensus is either she's younger, in which she looks the best that she possibly ever will, as far as like in her 20s, or you skip the whole like maybe 32 up through like 47. And then or you go 50 and above. So it's either in the 20s or 50 and above, because usually if she's 50 and above, you're more able to more accurately evaluate who she's become.
Yeah.
But the general consensus is for a lot of guys that I know is the danger zone in the 30s and 40s for women, as far as their interest in women.
I was never aware of these danger zones until I became part of this group. I went into life like, I don't care if I'm 50, I'm gonna find me a man. I guess I have a rude awakening.
Right.
So, I guess I wasn't aware.
Well, look, only the brave will step to the danger zone. So that's all I need.
Well, let me tell you something.
Yeah, I think I need more friends.
Y'all still look like y'all in y'all 20s, so y'all good. They say if you look like you in your 20s, you still might get a man. So y'all all right. Don't worry about it.
I think I need a different circle of friends at the time. My friends don't care.
Your friends don't care about age? You saying, B-Nix, you saying your friends don't care about age? Not really?
No. No.
I think the biggest thing for
men out here who don't.
The biggest thing for a lot of guys, and not all guys, obviously, because there's people that get in relationships in all kind of circumstances. So it's not a one size fits all. But a lot of guys was saying, as it relates to that specific statement, a couple things. The main thing is that they didn't necessarily want to take care of another guy's kids, especially at a younger age. Like when a kid ages out, or they get to a point to where they're self-sufficient and they're grown and they're no longer subjected to the whole stepdaddy thing, then it becomes a little bit more acceptable and a lot less messy, so to speak, from their perspective, as far as having to deal with a certain type of situation that they would usually find themselves in. So I don't know.
I guess I have a different experience, you guys. So I don't want to speak as if this is the rule. It could be the exception, but I definitely had children when I entered into my relationship, and my man had never dated a woman with children ever. So it was
that's what I'm saying.
It was a very different situation.
I'm not necessarily saying that that's true for everybody and nothing, and I don't like to put a
I do want to tell my story because I feel like I don't want people to feel like that's not an option, because I do think he was super hesitant, and I really had a lot of support, so I could go out anytime I wanted. There was not a lot of like challenges with like, oh, you want to go on a date? Like he could randomly ask me and I could go, which that could be a challenge for a single mother, right? If you don't have the support. So I think that helped me a lot in my relationship, but also like then it just organically worked, and like he was like, okay, like it's not as bad as I thought, right? Like it did take him to get comfortable, but it happened. It took 3 years. It happened, and we're happy and we blended. So I do think that there are exceptions. Again, I was married, divorced, had 2 kids, came into this situation. So, don't give up hope, women. I think
if he loves you, he'll love those kids.
Yes.
Period. It'll be simple.
Yes. And I agree. And I think that, it can happen for any woman. I'm not like no different from no other woman, like where I'm so exceptional. It happens to me and it can't happen to nobody else. I do believe like it's some amazing people out here that can find the same type of love. So that's just, I want to give my personal story, because
you got to find somebody that
more important.
Fits with you.
That's right. And you really can.
Yeah.
I guess it is hope. You guys, it's going to conclude our episodes. I want to give a special thanks to our guests, Capri and Larisha. I appreciate you guys for dropping through, spending your
Thanks for having
time.
Us.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you.
No problem.
You guys are great. Love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And for you guys out there that joined in tonight, we appreciate you guys. Go to our YouTube channel, Lapeef Let's Talk. Subscribe, set the notifications, and please share. Until next time, we out.
See you.
All right, see you.
Nice to meet you, ladies.
You too.
You too.
And congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.